This is the SF Productions Podcast Network.
The circus is back in Vegas for the Consumer Electronics Show.
From the Pop Culture Bunker, I'm Mindy.
And I'm Mark. You can check out our audio podcast, How I Got My Wife to Read Comics, on iTunes or on our website, sfpodcastnetwork.com.
So, Mark, the Consumer Electronics Show.
Yeah, but first off, it's not the Consumer Electronics Show. It's CES, which is not an acronym.
It doesn't stand for that
Apparently
anymore.
a press release went out and said, hey, it's not the Consumer Electronics Show. It's officially CES. Stop saying it's an acronym. No idea why.
Maybe because they're not all consumer electronics anymore.
I suppose.
It's because a lot of it is gadgety things that are related to electronics, but not necessarily electronics themselves.
Yeah. So then the question is, then why use CES as a name? That means nothing now. Do keep in mind that many of these gadgets will never see the light of day in the stores. That these are concepts, and a lot of them are like, well, let's see if anyone's actually interested in them before we start making them. There's always a lot of trends at the show. You see them each year.
A lot of new TVs and new kinds of TVs.
Right, and this year it's 4K. So it's the next step from 1080p. So you can consider 1080p to be 1K. And this is 4K.
Okay.
Why do you want this? Well, because the TV manufacturers are panicking because they sold a ton of flat screens when we all went to digital.
Right.
And unfortunately, the stockholders got used to them making huge amounts of sales, and now they're not anymore because everybody who bought one has bought one, and they're not. TVs aren't the things you replace every 2 years or even every year.
Right, until they, build in some,
built-in obsolescence things like phones where they just die after a couple years.
Yes.
So they tried 3D. That didn't work.
And didn't I read somewhere that they're discontinuing 3D TVs now?
A lot of them, because people never bought them because they involved the glasses, and people do not want to sit at home.
And there's not a lot of content for it either.
That's the problem.
So,
speaking of content, is there 4K content? Well, Netflix at the show announced a few shows of theirs will move to 4K. House of Cards will have a 4K option. Apparently YouTube has a channel where there's a few 4K things.
Do you think that they'll charge more for that? I mean, it's certainly going to make you have a higher bandwidth to download, right?
In fact, good luck finding an ISP that will handle that much bandwidth. Unless you're on that Google Fiber or something like that, and you have gigabit Ethernet to your house, I don't see how you're going to power 4K in streaming.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to stream. You might be able to download, but then that rules out Netflix,
Right.
Unless Netflix adds an option to download and watch later, which they can't really do.
Right. Because that's not how they're licensed.
Right.
The next thing is that manufacturers are apparently readying 8K, because when they find out that 4K flops, it's like, let's double, we'd be even better.
Yeah.
And there's always an annual battle, who has the largest TV at the show. So Samsung came out with a 110-inch screen.
Now, I'm just thinking, and this is bigger than our projection TV screen.
Indeed, yes. And so Vizio said, we have a 120-inch screen. It's 9 feet wide. It weighs over 100 pounds. Keep in mind, it's a flat screen that weighs over 100 pounds.
And you can't really put that in a car to take it home or anything.
You couldn't. You would have to basically have it delivered by truck.
And I'm trying to think, if we wanted to put that in our basement, we couldn't do it.
No.
You couldn't get it through our door.
You have to build the TV around, your house around the TV.
So that's not really, I would think, a consumer product.
Not really. It's just for show.
Yeah.
And then LG, Samsung, and Panasonic showed curved and bendable screens. And this is another gimmick that they're like, okay, just because you can do it doesn't mean people want it.
Is this the one where Michael Bay walked off the stage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. The curved thing. There's such a limited potential market. Apparently, if you're a really avid gamer, it'd be a little bit more immersive if it was curved around you. But for that to have any real immersive effect, you'd basically have to be like this by the screen.
Yeah. Or it would have to curve so much.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the next big thing is Android and.
Okay.
First, we have Android and the Polaroid Socialmatic camera. So it kind of looks like the old Polaroid cameras, but it has Wi-Fi and it has built-in printing, and you can send stuff directly to like Facebook, directly from your little camera.
So the advantage of over just having it on your phone is that it would print out a little picture for you at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, keep in mind, it's not really Polaroid. Polaroid as a company has long since gone. Somebody just bought the rights to the name. Mm-hmm. There's also a projector with Android from ZTE. So it's not only can run Android, which means you can have apps coming out your projector, but it also is an LTE hotspot.
Well, that's kind of cool.
So it's kind of like checking off a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's Android and Canon camcorders, where you can run an app that will connect to your camcorder and then let you do things with your camcorder.
All right.
And they're also announced a pan table, which automates the panning of your camera back and forth. So you could remotely go, I want to pan it back and forth.
So if we were sitting here and you wanted to pan the
I
camera,
could go, and you could pan it back.
I can see where that might be useful for some people.
Possibly. There's Android and the Galaxy Pro Tab, or Galaxy Tab Pro from Samsung. Now, we just purchased the regular Tab for Christmas.
Yes.
The Pro has more memory. It has LTE built in. Plus, it has a more business-centric content bundle. It involves the New York Times and Bloomberg. And then finally, Android and cars. Audi, GM, Honda, and Hyundai are teaming with Google for connected cars. So apparently they would connect to your phone and you'd get...
So is this like a competition with Ford Sync? Or?
Yeah, basically. But they're trying to team with Google on this.
Yeah.
And speaking of cars, car tech is big because CES has essentially become an auto show to a major extent. Toyota has announced a hydrogen vehicle, not just a concept. It will be sold in the U.S. next year.
We'll see about that.
Question is where you would actually fill it up.
I think it will be sold maybe in New York and San Francisco.
Apparently in California will be the first market for it because there's actually places where you could fill up your hydrogen vehicle. BMW is adding automated parking options for $1,000 with no user input. You can basically hit a button and it will...
Parallel park or
it's regular
all parking?
Oh. All parking, apparently. It'll just like, boom, it'll find a parking space for you.
Well,
it'll drive it to it and then park your car. Ford announced their CMax concept. There's already a CMax car out there, but this one has a solar roof.
Now, see, that just makes sense to me.
Right, and I don't understand why they just don't make it now. It just must not be
maybe it just doesn't generate enough electricity to make it worthwhile at this point.
Possibly. There's this company called LintliT that made an electric two-wheel car that has gyros running to allow it to stay upright. Think motorcycle with a shell around it that makes it a car, and then you kind of throw some of the Segway technology into it so it stays upright. I don't know about that.
No.
And then finally, Audi put out a concept car with laser headlights.
Why would you need laser headlights?
Because it goes even farther. Apparently, like 600 feet.
So it can blind people from further away.
Exactly. Another trend, fitness gadgets.
Well, I've been looking at fitness gadgets.
Yeah, we're looking at them. So, a Garmin's Vivofit will nag you when you don't work out.
That's what I need.
Sony's core sensors can be put in your shoe or worn as a pendant, and then it connects to something on your wrist. So it's this little lozenge-like thing that connects to that.
Okay.
Moovia has this thing called the G Series that tracks your work in sports, your sleep patterns, and when you're sitting. And says, you've been sitting too long, go do something.
Yeah. See, I do need something. There was, not at CES, but there was a Fitbit product that also would, like, give you some sort of a thing if you weren't moving enough.
Right.
That's what I need.
Right. The LifeTrack Zone tracks fitness, your ECG, and it gives you mail notifications from your phone.
Oh, that's kind of silly. I don't know.
And then the Jaybird Rain gives you fitness suggestions based on the activities you're doing.
Okay.
Saying, if you're doing this, then, if you like that type of fitness, then you might like this kind of fitness. And then some miscellaneous stuff. As you mentioned, the Michael Bay meltdown during the Samsung keynote.
Yeah, he just lost. He couldn't talk without a teleprompter.
Yeah, this Mr. Big Director.
Yeah.
There's the Scanadu Scout. This is an actual medical tricorder.
Was this one of the ones that was in response to that, like, X Prize type
Yes, it
thing?
was.
Okay.
So it will collect your temperature, your respiratory rate, your blood pressure, your stress level by holding it to your forehead for 10 seconds.
Wow.
And it's one of these, as you mentioned, it's X Prize, and it's also this crowd-funded type thing as well. But they're actually going to put them out this spring for like $200. Garmin is adding dash cams to its GPS units because nobody's buying GPS units by themselves anymore.
I think that would be cool. I'd like to have a dash cam.
That should hold off the cell phone market taking over the GPS market for about 30 seconds or so.
Well, I still like my GPS better than the cell phone GPS just
Yeah.
because it drains my cell phone battery so badly.
That's true. We saw 3D printers coming down in price again, and it's moving upward in capabilities, whole ranges of these. 3D printers will become very common in the next couple years.
I imagine we'll see one in our basement.
Sooner than later. And then finally, Roku is working out agreements where they'll build the technology directly into the TV, so you won't have the box. So it'll just be an app on your TV, your smart TV.
But is that any different than just having apps on your TV?
Except it's Roku, and then you can have apps within the app.
Yeah.
And you can have all the various channels in Roku.
But wouldn't it just be as easy for the TV manufacturer to just put all those apps into their TV?
Except that the manufacturers then don't have to worry about handling all the apps. Roku can worry about all the apps.
I see. So, and then if you got that, you could listen to our audio podcast, How I Got My Wife to Read Comics, on your TV.
Or on iTunes.
Well, yeah.
You never know.
Or on our website, sfpodcastnetwork.com. So, check it out. And from the Pop Culture Bunker, I'm Mindy.
And I'm Mark. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye-bye.